This is CJ Short with Your Perspective Podcast. Please like, follow, subscribe. I'm here to moderate, try to keep these guys in line. No promises, but I'm going to do my best.
What's going on? Your Perspective Podcast is back in the building, season 2. As you can see, we have Head Coach Kelvin Sampson. We're in the Tillman Fertitta Center. This is where it goes down. This is his office. I got my man CJ Short here. Welcome to the podcast, the new moderator of the podcast. Welcome, CJ Short. And as of course, we have Winston Shepard, my right hand, one of my best friends throughout this 31-year journey. Man, it's a pleasure to have you guys here. Today, Coach, it's a lot of accolades that I can say. It's a lot of things that I can run off. I want to say first, congrats on the new extension here at U of H. Congrats to that. 2-time Coach of the Year in the Big 12.
Yeah.
4-time Coach of the Year in the AAC. You know what I'm saying? 2-time Coach of the Year, AP Coach of the Year. 2-time NABC Coach of the Year, 3 Final Fours. The list goes on, Coach. I know from my standpoint and from my understanding, none of these things matter to you.
No. I think one of the things that's helped me is, and you know this, Doc, because I preached it all the time, is you just can't forget where you come from. My father was a Hall of Fame high school coach, and I think his greatest trait was how humble he was. He taught me to always take the blame and give the credit to the players. So he retired in 1983. I was the head coach at Montana Tech. And the only reason I got that job is it was a hard job. They had never had a winning season. So you got this 25-year-old guy that was an assistant. We'll give it to him. But he used to come to Butte. Lauren was born in 1981. Kellen was born in 1985. And they'd come see their grandkids. And we're sitting at a kitchen table in our little apartment. He would never, ever offer advice. But he said, I'm going to tell you 2 things. And I took those things to heart. He said, number 1, if you listen to those people sitting up there behind you, pretty soon you're going to be sitting with them. And number 2, don't ever lose sight of parents. Parents would much rather their son or daughter make the all-conference team than your team win the conference championship. Now, he told me that in 1983. That was 42 years ago. So for me, he was right. That's why I don't talk to parents. Never have. That conversation is never going to go right. So I let my assistants handle that, and then I learned to block out the noise. I coach my team the way I coach my team. No one is qualified to give me advice on how I coach my team. I know how to coach my team. So, but if you come in here every day with an humble mindset, you can learn. Guys that don't learn is the one who thinks they got all the answers. It's like that play we ran against Purdue. I got that play from Scott Skiles. Everybody wanted to give me the credit. I got the play from Scott Skiles. I'm probably not smart enough to come up with that play on my own. But I've learned from so many other people because I learn to be humble. Push my players, try to get them to be the best they can be. But every day is a chance to learn.
That's deep. As far as you said, 42 years ago, when I look back at you going to, like you said, Montana Tech, Washington State, Indiana, Oklahoma, U of H, going into those jobs and, your perception and your outlook on how I want my program to look. What was the number one thing going into Washington State, Oklahoma, Indiana, and Houston? What was the number one thing that you tell yourself, like, when I come here, this is what I'm implementing?
Yeah. Montana Tech was a great coaches league. I'm sure I was at the bottom of the coaches because of my inexperience. And I remember Steve Eggers from the College of Great Falls, Casey Kelps, Western Montana, Greg Byram, Northern Montana, Carroll College. All those guys were in their 40s and early 50s. I was 25. I used to feel sorry for our players. I said, to be sure, they can find them a better coach than me. The first year, we went 4-23. Year before, they went 5-22. So they were used to that. I didn't have any assistant coaches. Well, I had a guy that sold life insurance downtown, and he would come over and help me in the afternoons, but he didn't travel. We didn't have a bus. We'd have to go rent. We had vans. We'd go to motor pool. They'd give me a key, and I'd drive the van. Long trips. I remember driving from Butte, Montana to Lethbridge, Alberta, Canada. Played the Lethbridge Pronghorns. That was probably 1981 or 82. Then drive up to Calgary and play, and then drive all the way up to Edmonton, Alberta. So we go play on a Thursday, leave on Thursday, play on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Now, once we got to Edmonton, turn around, coming back, it was 790 miles. So that's where I came from.
We didn't drive.
I was driving. Now, sometimes we would get a bus. It was like a 1966 Trailways that we co-opt with the Milwaukee Brewers Rookie League team. So sometimes we would get that bus. But, humble beginnings. I looked around at those other coaches, those other teams, and I realized that I had to have something I could lean on to make us at least competitive. So I bought into we're not as good as them, but we can level the playing field by playing with more intensity, playing harder. We didn't have great scores, so I knew that we missed a lot of shots. So I adopted offensive rebounding. If it was a loose ball, I said, you know what? They're not going to get on the loose ball as fast as we can. So we said we're going to get every loose ball. Yeah. No shot clock. We're going to shorten the game by moving around. Now, my last 3 years there, we won 3 conference championships and got all the way to the district finals. But I had 3 guards, Joe Puckett, Teran Carter, Ken Andre. All 3 of them were 90% free throw shooters. And if we had a lead on the road, under 4 minutes to go, we opened that thing up and held it.
3-man
we ain't shooting. And there ain't but 3 people touching it. So if you foul us, you're going to foul either Kent, Joe, or Teran. Yeah. And we're going to close this thing out at the free throw line. So they'd run around panicking because we weren't shooting it. They go trap us, swing it, swing back. And those guys all had a high basketball IQ.
Okay, so at this time, it was no shot clock.
No shot clock and no three-point line. Three-point line, I think, came in 83 or 84.
Okay.
And then the 45-second shot clock came in, I think, in the late 80s, maybe, something like that. But then when I went to Washington State, it was the Pac-10. Mm-hmm. Arizona with Lute Olson, Sean Elliott, and Damon Stoudemire, Khalid Reeves, Chris Mills. We couldn't beat those teams. But I got jobs. The jobs I got were jobs that a lot of people wouldn't take. Mm-hmm. You know what they paid me my first job at Montana Tech? $16,500. My first job the head job at Washington State in 1987, they gave me a 2-year contract for $82,000. That's $41,000 a year. And I told Karen that we're going to do this, and we're going to do what we do. And I had a chip on my shoulder about that, because I knew they were hiring me to get to another guy. They didn't. It was so late in April. They said, "Well, we'll give it to the assistant coach, and give him a 2-year deal." And but by year 4, we were rolling. Mm. So taking those jobs helped me. Look at Houston when I got here. Everybody said, "Well, this was terrible." Well, so was Montana Tech. So was Washington State. Now, this was the worst job I had in terms of support, facilities, apathy, institutional support. It was just What they were really good at was firing coaches without supporting them. And I researched that. In the last 16 years, they had 4 coaches. That means every 4 years they fire a coach. So I asked them. And I didn't ask them for this job. They came to me. Right. I said, well, what's going to be different with me? I mean, these other guys, and one of them said, well, you're a good coach. I'm not a good coach. I'm not a good coach unless I have great institutional support. We can win games, but to win a championship, the administration has to support the team. So my best work here was not coaching. It was hitting the pavement to get people to understand that we are in Houston. Why is the University of Houston so bad? This is Houston, one of the greatest cities in the world.
Amen.
And we got access to players. He said, well, we need to start keeping our best players here. I wouldn't come here. Look at you, Dot, when you went to Oregon. Why would you come here? Yeah. You remember old hot fines and them big-ass rats? People said there weren't rats. And rats are bigger than cats. And they would scurry around. Homeless people would come here. Mikel McLean went up there to try to move one of them out, and he wanted to fight Mikel. When it rained, we had to go to half court because the other end, we had to put trash cans. I remember that was my first year.
We used to do drills around the trash can.
Around the trash can.
When it rained, yeah.
But it was just ridiculous how bad it was. Montana Tech was bad. Yeah. Washington State was it was Washington State. But we wanted Montana Tech. We wanted Washington State. And I said, if I can get this administration to buy into facilities, you know, when we brought kids on campus, we only had one place to take them. That was my office. Yeah. And couldn't take them to Hot Finds, especially if it was raining. Bring them in here. But Tillman Fertitta, Spencer Armour, Jack Moore, Bill Worrell, President Couture. I had this blueprint on a practice facility. And they asked me, what should we do first, the arena or the practice facility? Now, with that question, I knew we was in trouble. You have to do the practice facility first. If you don't, where are you going to practice? So we did it in 2 phases. The first blueprint I saw was about 15 million. Mm. And it had one court with a curtain down the middle, women on one side, men on the other. And my first reaction was, why don't y'all just drop basketball? What's the least we got to do to get through this? And so I'm not going to tell you all of the stuff I did, but eventually I researched and we came up with the blueprint for the new one. Mac Rose was the AD that hired me. He left in 4 months. Yeah. So the assistant AD or associate AD got bumped up, Hunter Urchek. Yeah. And Hunter played basketball at a small college. I could relate to him and he could relate to me. Mm. And so we finished that facility. We moved into it in January of 2016. And then they wanted to pause and do something and then maybe get to the this Hot Finds later. Mm. Can't do that. Phase 1 has to bleed into phase 2. There cannot be a delay. So we did a lot of stuff. We had 3 plants. One was 30 million, one was 60 million, and one was 100 million. I knew we couldn't do the 100 million. We didn't have the resources. But I knew we could do the 60. And I don't think I've ever told anybody this, Doc. I'll tell you how we got the money. So I called Tillman up and wanted to have lunch with him. And Tillman's a busy man. You know, he's got all this stuff. So I can't remember the name of the restaurant we met at, but he had a laptop. He had like 2 phones over here and 2 phones over there. We ordered salads, and he didn't talk to me because he was on the phone here, texting this, checking something on his laptop. And I was getting hot because I had a passion for this. Yeah. And I didn't do that, but I got his attention. I said, tell me, you cannot win a championship here in football. We were an American then. Mm-hmm. The rules won't allow it. You've got to be at a Power 5 conference. Our Super Bowl for the American Conference was the Peach Bowl, the group of 6. But we couldn't get to the Final Four in football. So you had a ceiling. There is no ceiling in basketball. You can win a national championship here. We are in Houston, man. We're in Houston. But we've got to think forward. And so a couple of the Board of Regents said, well, we need a 10,000. We're going to do it. Let's get 12,000, 14,000 arena. So I went back and researched things get better when people leave, right? Yeah. So when Phi Slamma Jamma was here, very rarely did they fill the place. Very rarely. And it seated about 11,000. And so I pushed for a smaller arena and it came down, in my mind, it came down to supply and demand. If we had 7,100 seats, I said 7,000, 7,100 seats, and we got this thing going, we're going to start having a wait list for season tickets. So I always had a vision that was way out there. People talk about the trees in the forest. I always focused on the forest. That I kept looking at all the best players in Houston, never came here, but they never had a reason to come here. But once Tillman, once I got his attention, I didn't understand that Tillman was the chairman of the Board of Regents forever. I thought he just cycled off after 5 or 6 years, a new guy would come. I said, Tillman, when you leave here, all chairmen of the Board of Regents they leave a legacy. I want your legacy to be basketball. I need a gift. He listened to me, and I could tell he was listening. There's a difference in hearing somebody and listening. So 2 days later, he called me and said, I'm going to give you a gift, and that's it. He gave us $20 million. That allowed us to start construction. We could hire a construction firm. We could hire a design firm. We got the design, the $60 million we did, and we drew it all up. This company out of Kansas City won the bid to do the project, and we had so many meetings with them on what this place was going to look like. Remember, they had this cement barrier.
Yeah, I remember that.
Around there, and I always felt like there's a huge separation from the players and the fans. So we got rid of that, brought the seats all the way down to the court. I got that idea from North Carolina State. When North Carolina State won the national championship, I always remember Reynolds Coliseum. They had a place for the students right on the floor. Yeah. And we sold the, see down there, Mark and Judy Cook? Yeah. Mark and Judy Cook gave us $500,000. And that's how we raised money. We just chipped away at this, chipped away at that, and got money and started construction. And the first game in here was December 1st, 2018. Armani Brooks had 20 points in the first half against Oregon. Pritchard, that plays at the Celtics, Bol. I mean, they had a really good team, and we blew them out. This place was packed. It was nuts, and we were on our way.
I wish I was here for that game because I did go to Oregon and I transferred here.
You remember that game?
Yeah, I remember. If I would have stayed one more year, that game would have been for me.
Yeah.
Coach, that's an amazing journey, you know what I mean, from all you've been through and all the success that you've had. You know what I mean? I was here from the jump. I wasn't here the first year, but I was here the second year.
But you were, the thing I remember about you, Dot, I used to come in with the players in the morning, and we're trying to establish our culture and our standards. And I'd come in here every morning at 7 o'clock. With 2 or 3 players at a time, because I wanted them to feel my passion and know that it ain't just the assistant coaches that work you out. The head coach can work you out too. So I'd bring them in here, and I was at this basket at Old Hotfines, but down there at that basket was Dot, and he had to sit out a year, and I couldn't wait. Once we recruited him and he committed, he had to sit out that year, and then when he came. There's 2 guys I thought lifted this program, Damyean Dotson and Rob Gray. There's not a game you guys played that you couldn't get 20. That first year we went 13 and 20, or 13 and 19, something like that. Then the very next year we won 22. Then we went 22 again. Then the next year we won 27. And after that, we started ripping off 30-win seasons.
Yeah. Coach, if I could just rewind a little bit with your dad being a Hall of Fame coach, can you talk about how that shaped your passion, maybe some of your earlier memories of, having your dad be coach and then, then to add what it's like to have your son working with you?
Yeah, a big part of my father was his parents. My grandfather, who I worked for, he had a little mom and pop grocery store. This is before retail chains came out, Piggly Wigglies and Kroger's and Wall. There was none of that. This was in the mid 60s. I was born in 1955. So in 65, I would have been 10 years old. Now you remember certain things when you're 6 or 7, but 10, you remember everything then. You're old enough to realize what you're doing. My grandfather was born in 1897. He died in 1970 at 73 years old. My grandmother was born in 1912. Neither one of them got past the 6th grade because the way they were born and raised, they had to work on the farm. They were raised into sharecroppers. That's what they did. But my father was just such a hard worker. When he was coaching high school basketball in North Carolina, he coached all through segregation. The first white player I saw play was probably when I was 11 or 12 years old, when they changed conferences. I remember Charlie Scott being the first black basketball player at the University of North Carolina in 1967. But that segregation was ending then, But just because segregation ended, that became a law. It still didn't change a lot of people's attitudes, but at least we were getting a chance. We could broaden our horizons. And the thing that really shaped me in the 60s was President Kennedy getting assassinated. I was in the 3rd grade. Then his brother, Bobby Kennedy, his attorney general, got assassinated. But the big one was Martin Luther King. I remember that. I remember where I was and what I was doing.
And where was that?
I was riding a bicycle at a 10-speed. I didn't get my driver's license until I was almost a senior in high school. I had a girlfriend that had a car, so I didn't worry about that. I was down at the park playing basketball. I came home, and there was no cable TV then. You only had 3 channels: CBS, NBC, ABC, and then it was just white snow. But they were telecasting. Might have been Walter Cronkite was talking about Martin Luther King, but that was a important time in the life of minorities back then, because Martin King was somebody that people looked up to because of what he represented and the way he carried himself. When he got shot at Lorraine Motel in Memphis, it changed a lot of people's lives, because what he represented for all of us was hope. That's an important word. I think it's the most important word in the Bible. Without hope, what do you have? That's what we did here with that practice facility. That created hope. Hey, we can do something here. Then we moved right into this building. It was more hope. Then you had to deliver. But my father drove the bus. He had a big activity bus that he'd get from the county. He drove the bus. He'd park it down the road behind our house after Friday night games. But he was my hero. Everywhere he went, I would go. He would take me to practice. I knew all his players. I knew their numbers. They were my heroes too. And I told somebody one time, if my daddy had been a carpenter, I'd probably be a carpenter too. That's the impact he had on me. He started this thing during the summer, and this is in the early 70s. I graduated from high school in 1974. But most of the people in our area were farmers, and so the kids had to work. They had to work tobacco fields. They had to most crops are seasonal. Like tobacco was late June, all through July, 1st of August. Picking cotton didn't happen in June and July. That was always August, September, which is why a lot of kids didn't start school on time, because they had to pick cotton. But that's where I was raised. But back when he coached, he had a 9-month contract. That's what they paid teachers. They didn't have 12-month contracts. So I have an older sister had a twin sister and a younger sister. There was 4 of us. Actually, there was 5. I had a sister that passed away. But we were all close in age. My twin, obviously, when we were all 10-year-olds, she and I were 10. My oldest sister was 12. My younger sister was 8. So when you got 4 kids and you ain't got a check coming in, you got to hustle. So my father sold World Book encyclopedias, which was social media and Google before there was that.
Yeah.
He sold Lincoln Life Insurance. He taught driver's ed, and he worked at tobacco markets. He did that. He worked those 4 jobs, June, July, August. His last paycheck was in May. His first paycheck back was in September. So he had to support his family. I didn't think anything of it at the time because, we didn't have much, but we had what we had, and we was cool with that.
Yeah.
I didn't know what other people had, so I didn't miss it.
Yeah.
My sister and I, we'd figure out what to do. I read somewhere later on that about latchkey kids. I said, that was us. I didn't even know it. My mother would leave in the morning. She worked at the hospital on 12-hour shifts. My dad would get up early and carpool to school, and he'd come home at 8 or 9. We just figured out. I knew where my grandmother's house was. If I needed something, I'd go there.
Yeah.
He did that. I think his work ethic spawned my work ethic. And one thing I always tell my players, and Dot's heard me say this, is don't ever, ever forget where you come from, because we all come from something.
Sure.
The fact that you're achieving, winning awards, you're doing really good in your profession. I always go back and think of my hardest year. Like, I coached a team that lost 18 straight games when I was building that program at Washington State. We went 1-17 in the conference. We won our first conference game against USC, lost to UCLA, and then lost the rest of them until the conference tournament and lost that one. Then the season was over. Then the next year we had a winning record and was rolling. But
So you ended on 18 straight losses.
the season ended with 18 straight losses. So we've had a bunch of 30-win seasons, NCAA tournaments, Final Fours. But the thing that balances me is I always think about that year.
Yeah.
And that's why I don't get too carried away with success.
I wanted to switch gears with you a little bit. Being a Houston kid, being a top recruit in the nation, you spoke about it. U of H never called, right? Like that at the time, it just wasn't an option. And
What
I
year
never.
was that?
So I graduated 2012.
Yeah.
Same year as me. Yeah, it just like at the time, like it just I never spoke to him. I really don't even know who was the staff at the time. But fast forward to now, 2025, you guys got one of the best recruiting classes coming in the nation. Can you speak to us about that and kind of the change up, over the last decade? Now you got, I would presume, the number 1 class coming in on top of just finishing in the national championship. So give us some insight on that.
That's interesting what you said, Winston, about them not calling. And it's just my perspective, but I think they knew they probably couldn't get you.
Mm-hmm.
Because they knew what they had. I feel bad for those coaches that came before me because of how poorly they were supported. But I focused on, my recruiting philosophy has always been inside out. But I'm really careful about recruiting Houston kids that may not can play at this level. There's different levels of college basketball. Yep. There was Washington State when I got to Washington State, then there was Arizona. A lot of guys could have played at Washington State, but never at Arizona. Mm-hmm. So the guys that made the biggest difference for us getting started was Damyean Dotson, because he's the third ward kid. Galen Robinson, right down the road here at Westbury. Those are Houston guys. I had to sign, but they were going to start. They were stars. When I recruited Galen had to start. He had to be. You can't recruit a Houston kid and play 2 minutes a game. That's embarrassing for him and his family. So I was always really particular. If I took a Houston kid, I had to know, I wasn't interested in anybody else's opinion of this. I had to know he was good enough to start. Dot was a star. Galen wasn't a star when he got here, but he evolved into one. And then after that, Houston started opening up. We started opening eyes. Yep. The thing I noticed when we got here is nobody respected Houston basketball. they'd roll their eyes, and rightfully so. I wasn't mad at them. I had one. I got calls that first couple of years from AAU coaches telling me about dudes didn't even start on the AAU team, telling me they thought this guy could help us. I said, come on, man. We that bad? You got a dude that don't even start, and you're telling me just how bad are we? But we started focusing on recruiting the best Houston kids. I remember recruiting Kristen James. Because I thought Kristen James would have been a good fit here.
But he went to Oklahoma,
Went to
right?
Oklahoma.
Oh, okay.
Went to Bel Air.
Yeah,
Went to
CJ,
Bel Air
yeah,
High
yeah,
School.
yeah.
You know CJ, yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't mad at him. I mean, we weren't this yet. We were building. I remember Texas A&M, a couple other schools, LSU was really recruiting Dot hard. And we sold Dot on being a pioneer, starting this thing, you know. We've had 5 kids drafted, but the one I'm most proud of is Dot because he took a chance. Jarris Walker came here, was winning conference championships every year. He came to a winning program. Quentin Grimes came to a winning program. Dot didn't come to a winning program. Galen didn't. They were the ones that helped us get this started. But starting with Dot and Galen, we started getting the best players from Houston. Now, some of them transferred back. But I was always proud of that. I've only had one kid here that didn't really make it. And I always take responsibility for those things, I need to have done a better job at something. And I always learn from that. But winning is what it's all about. Recruiting kids that fit. Now, there's a lot of good players in Houston that I don't recruit because I don't think they can handle this. And if I don't think they can handle it, I'm not going to put them in a position where they may fail.
Mm-hmm.
This episode is brought to you by Tago Restaurant, 1120 Dennis Street. You know what I mean? We here with my boy Wynn, live on set. We got the Mayan Mule right here. Get you a try of that, bro.
Nah,
Try that. You ain't gonna try that?
Nah, it's way too early, but we saving this one for you. So make sure
Pull
you
up.
get down here to Tago, 1120 Dennis Street. Ask for the Mayan Mules when you get here.
Ask for Will.
When you say that they can't handle it, what more specifically do
That
you?
might be a better one.
Yeah, maybe Doc could jump in.
So I'm gonna answer that, but I'm gonna piggyback off what you said, Coach, because I think this is important off our conversation when I was looking at Texas A&M and LSU. I don't know if you remember this. You called me. I can tell you where I was at. I was in front of my mom's house, pacing up and down the street in front of her house. You called me. I know you said you was gonna call me at whatever time. I don't remember. But the first thing you got on the phone and said, "I'm looking forward to you coming to U of H. This is my second chance at coaching, based upon your issues and your situation."
Mm-hmm.
He said, and you said, "Dot, I'm gonna give you a second chance." And from that moment on, when I hung up the phone, I was like, I'm staying in Houston. Like, he's like, "I'm gonna give you a second chance." And I was like, why not stay at home? I'm at my mom's house right now. He's like, "You can stay at home, you can be a pioneer in Houston." So I mean, that from when I heard that resonated with me, and I was like, there's no way that I can't stay at home. So I would want to say this before on camera and all this. I think you changed my life. I know for a fact you changed my life. Me coming here and experiencing this, becoming a man, staying at home, being successful at home in front of my family, changed their life forever, and it changed my life forever. So I want to say thank you for that. I appreciate it. And I remember that call like it was yesterday. You said, "I'm gonna give you a second chance." And for you guys at home that don't know, I was released from Oregon University. CJ, I don't know if I ever told you this story.
You told me.
I was released from Oregon on some potential and allegations for sexual harassment. So that's neither here or there, but I want to say thank you. You gave me an opportunity, and I couldn't let you down in that instance. So appreciate you for that.
I think the four most important words that a coach can say to a player is, "I believe in you." We all have to have somebody that will believe in us. There's so many people that have succeeded, from Walt Disney to Abraham Lincoln. You could go down a million. That probably the guy that's had the most failures ever in the history of invention was Thomas Edison. And he finally hit on the light bulb. But look how many failures he had before he walked to that. Failure, I think, identifies and allows you to take an inventory of yourself and what's most important for you. And I think failure is important. The one thing that everybody in this room right now will have at some point in their life is failure. It's how you handle it. You know, we all make mistakes. It's how you handle it. I think will determine who you are. You know? But Dot had a work ethic. His character and his integrity was beyond reproach. I remember meeting his mother the first time, and I could relate to his mother because she was like a lot of you don't have to be a city girl or a farm girl or whatever. You are who you are, no matter what's your background. And she reminded me a lot of the ladies that I grew up with, you know, because her greatest passion was her son, you know, and when you got that behind you, you'll make it.
I got a quick question for you, Coach. Let's lighten it up a little bit. We getting sentimental in here. I can feel it at home chat. But, you know, me and Dot have had many conversations about necessarily not understanding at the time or, you know, looking back and being a little bit like, damn, I wish I would have listened a little bit more. But, you know, Dot tells a story about his player comparison. And at the time, he didn't understand it, but he always talks about how your belief in him and then him listening allowed him to propel to the next level. So you compared him to Bruce Bowen, which now that we're adults, that guy had an amazing career. You know, I mean, he's still nice on 2K to this day. Yeah. You know, so, but at the time when you're a high school kid, sophomore, junior, you like Bruce Bowen, like, oh yeah, I'm Allen Houston or whoever else, right? Yeah. But you know, he talks about how you know compared him to Bruce Bowen and gave him a very strict set of rules to adhere to and follow. Yeah. Talk to us about that, man. What did you see?
So that situation was in the Hawthorns. This was my junior year. I think I got the rebound, coach, made a turnover, and you know you're saying, Doc, get the ball to a guard. And I'm like, Coach, I am a guard. Like, what do you mean? I just made a turnover. I made a bad mistake. He said, Doc, you know what? From now on, I want you to run to the corner, shoot the ball, shoot threes, corner threes, and play defense. From now on, get the ball to a guard. Galen, come get the ball from him. Rob. And I was like, I'm like, yo, like, you not watch my film at Oregon? Like, that's what I do. So in that situation, and I look for, I mean, fast forward to now, 9 years pro, I'm like, man, Bruce Bowen had a hell of a career. He made a lot of money, and he got championships. Yeah. He's a very consistent guy. So I guess what Wynn saying, I told him that story as far as like, you know, sometimes we take in stuff and we don't take it the right way based on wherever we at in our life. And you look for it later, and I'm like, man, that advice right there, and that one thing you said to me meant a lot at that time, but I took it out the window, and I was like, no, it's disrespectful.
Yeah, the way I see the game is, you know, when I go recruit a kid, I look for specific things, and I've got 4 freshmen now that do the same thing. They all think they're better than they actually are. They're not old enough to know what they don't know. It's amazing the difference in the way you think at 25 than you do at 18. You know, 18-year-olds don't have enough scars on their back. They're clean. I remember Quentin's first good game here, he had 27 points. We were playing at South Carolina. He had 8 turnovers. 8 turnovers. I told him had he scored 18 points with 1 turnover, it would have impacted winning more. Now, we won the game because we had 26 offensive rebounds that game. But Quentin was like Dot, Sasser, Jamal, Dejan. They all try to do too much, you know. And the more you do, you know, sometimes less is more. But when you've been a star everywhere you go, then you come into this program especially. I know what they don't know. I've got plenty of scars on my back, but teach them how to play the right way. Well, I've got a kid on my team now, Mercy Miller. Mercy's really improved, but the basketball IQ is hard to teach. Instincts hard to teach. You know, when I recruited Mercy, the thing that I liked best about him, I thought he's a good catch and shoot guy. But he got here, and every time he gets the ball, he wants to drive it. And what does he do? He turns it over. And he thinks my bad is okay. The team that has the most my bads usually finishes last. So teaching kids how to play winning basketball. Dot played, some of his stuff was losing basketball. We don't lose against teams that play that way. That's the way their guards play. They're not going to beat us because they're going to constantly play in traffic. Instead of drawing the defense and moving it right away, they try to beat or split the double team. That's a turnover, So teaching guys how to play the right way and playing winning basketball, I always thought that was our staff's greatest strength. And I don't mind telling them, they're going to keep score. Most coaches get fired because they're passive aggressive. They're afraid of confrontation. I'm not afraid of confrontation. Matter of fact, I'm undefeated in confrontation because I represent our program, and he's representing himself. I got to get him with the program. I just talked last week. We have all those banners up in the gym. Final Four. I said, son, you see all those banners? You didn't play on any of them teams. Right. So it ain't like we need you to win. But if you're going to play here, you're going to have to play the right way, So let me play my game. If I let you play your game, we ain't going to win. Getting them to understand that. Jamal started, I think, 9 or 10 games this year for Toronto. When he was a freshman, I couldn't put him on the floor. And the thing that helped us was his mother and father. The biggest social phenomenon that I've witnessed in coaching over the last 35 years is the black daddy. 35 years ago, it was just the mamas. The mamas would let the AAU coach handle the recruiting or let the high school coach handle recruiting. These black daddies now, they're smart, they're educated, they do their research. I learned something from Jairus' father. I won't tell you the school, but I went and did a home visit on a Wednesday night, me and Coach Quantis. Flew into Baltimore, rented a car, drove across the Pennsylvania state line. He was right, that's where his father was living, his mother. They both made 6 figures, very successful. He had 3 sisters that all played D1 sports. One of them was still playing volleyball at St. Joseph's. And he said something to me that I use to this day. He said, this coach that just came in here last night, he talked about their alumni, their gym, their conference, the success of the students, what the school has done in the past, just painted a picture of how great that is. And he said, Coach, not one time did he look at me and tell me how he was going to make my son better. And then, he had an accent, and he said, we are not going to choose a school. We're going to choose a coaching staff. Yep. I need the right coach to coach my son because my son wants to play in the NBA. Your alumni will not get my son to the NBA. How big your gym is has nothing to do with my son's progress. How will you make my son better? I started thinking about that, and I used that in recruiting with Chris Senak's father, with Kingston Fleming's father and mother, and those guys started thinking about that. Marcus Sasser called me and committed September. He just said, Coach, I want to come. I'm ready to commit. Nobody in the Big 12 offered him a scholarship. It came down to us and Colorado State. I said, Jamal Shead, it was us and UTEP. So when we go out and evaluate, I evaluate before I recruit. You don't have to be very smart to pick out the best player in the gym. Like I was at a TABC deal in Duncanville this past weekend. I saw the best players. Most of the best players I saw, I'd rather play against them. I want Jamal Shead. He was ranked like 173rd. Marcus was ranked 290. Those I can coach them dudes, and we'll go beat them dudes. Them dudes is tough. They could play here. Not everybody can play here. When Doc got here, he had to make a lot of changes. Doc may not remember this. It happened right there on the 3-point line. We're getting ready to go, I think, to China. Mm-hmm. Worst trip ever. Was getting ready to go to China. And I said, we don't have a guard that's going to average 6 rebounds. You know what Doc said? I'm going to average 6 rebounds. And I said, you averaged 1 at Oregon. That means you got to average 5 times more than you did at Oregon. He averaged 5.9 and a lot of double-doubles. But part of a coach's job is to create value in the players. My job is to create value. I don't think Doc would have gotten drafted if all he did was average 19 points a game. But he averaged 19 points and 6 rebounds. 8 rebounds. That's 8 rebounds. I think Quentin averaged 5.9. Yeah. That's right. And Quentin didn't rebound at Kansas either. But, adding rebounding to your portfolio. Being a guy that can guard the other team's best player. Get where you can shoot 40% from the three. You shoot 40% from the three, you average 6 rebounds a game, and you guard the other team's best player, you're going to get drafted. Marcus did that. Quentin did that. Dot did that. And I got some freshmen this year. They don't know it yet, but they're going to do it too.
So Coach, talking about your players and things you evaluate, if you had a top 3 must-haves in a player, what would those 3 things be?
First is character. You don't want problems, don't recruit them. I don't recruit knuckleheads. The last 3 years, our biggest discipline problem was JoJo Tugler forgot to cut his cell phone off in a film session. That's it. I have great kids. That's why we win. Sometimes you give the coach too much credit. You don't have character guys. When I walk down this court every day, the 2 things I don't have time to teach or coach is attitude and effort. If you got the wrong attitude and you give him poor effort, I can't coach basketball. I got to worry about getting you going. I got a team that I got to coach today. So June, July, and August is usually my come to Jesus meeting with these kids. Because once we get to September, it's go time. Once we get to October, it's on. November, we're playing a game. So June, July, and August is I get them out of their comfort zones. But there is no growth inside your comfort zone. You can't grow there. You got to get outside that to grow. And the coaches that can push their kids to limits that they can't push themselves or think they can never get to, you can't do that with knuckleheads. They'll quit on you. The first thing that time they have a bad practice or the coach got on them and made them run, they're going to call somebody and say, I need to get up out of here.
Transfer portal.
In the last 10 years, our best top 10 players, we've had 3 kids transfer in 10 years.
And this is the main time of, if I don't like something, I'm just transferring.
Baylor, every kid in there, they had 13 or 14 kids on their roster. Every kid, they didn't have 1 kid come back this year. Now, some of them was circumstantial, but last year we were 35-5, got to the championship game, led it for 39 minutes. I had 4 starters back. This year, off that team, I've got 3 starters back. Milo Juzam started at point guard every game for us last year. Emmanuel Sharp started every game on the wing. JoJo Tugler started every game at the 5. We got those kids back. Now, most programs, those guys leave for more money. And these kids all could make more money than what we're paying them. Some of them significantly more. But we have a family here. And I think the thing that I've enjoyed most, and this is why this is the best job I've ever had. I've enjoyed coaching at Houston more than any other school. I get to work with my son every day. I get to work with my daughter. I hire my former players, managers. I move them up. I hired a guy from Oklahoma State who's from Houston, Big Mike, econom, but he's one of us. Very humble, hard worker, doesn't say much, just works his butt off. He's part of our family now. But my staff recreates their job description. I don't write their job description. I make them write it. We have a retreat every year, and I have each member of the staff stand up and look at, we're all friends. We've been through the wars together. But you got to stand up and say, here's what my main duties are. I want Bilal to hear what Lauren said. I want Lauren to hear what Hollis said. I want Hollis to hear what Kellen said. Then they learn to stay in their lanes. These are my responsibilities. And then we write them up. And then I have a folder that I keep of what the responsibilities are. But I do that every year. That's how we sharpen our blade and get better.
Coach, I got a couple more questions. I know you got a busy day and you jam-packed, but let's talk about this championship run you guys just went on, or run to the championship game, I should say. Came a little bit short, but it was an amazing run. But I want to focus on that Duke game. Obviously, the draft is in a couple days, and the presumptive number 1 pick, Cooper Flagg, you guys were able to take him out and kind of stop his, run. What was kind of the game plan and the scout for the potential number 1 pick in the draft?
Starting with the Big 12 tournament, we played Colorado first. Had we lost that game, it's over. We just get ready for an NCAA tournament. But we beat Colorado, and that allowed us to advance to beat BYU. We had to beat BYU to beat Arizona, get to Arizona. Now we beat Arizona. We're Big 12 regular season champs. We're the Big 12 tournament champs. And now we go to the tournament, and all this ties into the Duke game. So we're a 1 seed. We play a 16 seed, Southern Illinois, Edwardsville, handle them. And now we're playing arguably the greatest 8 seed ever in Gonzaga. In the Kim Palm ratings, they're like number 3 or 4. And they're an 8 seed, and we're playing them. But we had to beat Gonzaga to get to Purdue. So now we got to go to Indianapolis. There's 25,000 people at the game. 23,000 were Purdue fans, maybe more than that. But we had to beat Purdue to get to Tennessee. Tennessee, a lot of people picked them to beat us in that game. We beat Tennessee, and now we're going to San Antonio for the Final Four. Here's our next opponent. I'm kind of giving you a reality of what we're doing, but that's how we operate. We don't celebrate. We kind of stay in our cocoon. I do all the media that I'm supposed to. If I'm not supposed to do it, then I don't do it. Players are getting interviewed like crazy. There's content. Everybody needs content. They want to interview this guy. Social media, print media, TV. It's just the media exposure that you do. If I said yes to everything, I couldn't coach my team. So now we jump on that bus. We drive 210 miles, San Antonio. We get there. As soon as the bus stops, you've got hordes and hordes of fans because they gave us all a bus that's got the name of the team. They got the Final Four logo on both sides. It's like we're like rock stars rolling into town. So we get off the bus and we eat, and right away I take them to a film session, getting them focused. We didn't come here to be adored. We didn't come here to sign autographs and take selfies. We came here, we got a game. We're 40 minutes away from playing for a national championship. But I have a smart staff that they're excellent in scouting. Whether it doesn't matter to us whether it's Central Florida or Kansas or Iowa State or Texas Tech. We approach every game the same. So now I start paying attention to Duke, Cooper Flagg, Tyrese Proctor, Mulawach, Kneppel. They got 3 guys that's probably going to go in the lottery. But I got my bunch. Basketball's not a game of the best players always win. It's the best team. That's how we roll. We always have a great team because I teach guys how to play the right way, and they buy into it. But Cooper was one of those guys that was hyped. You couldn't, maybe the greatest player ever at Duke. When I started watching film of him, I went, they're right. Bad boy. I mean, he's good. But we also saw areas where we could attack them. L.J. Cryer had 26 points in that game. JoJo Tugler and J1 and Javier dominated the boards. The big Mulawach kid, 7'2". I can't tell you how many questions I got about him. He had no block shots, no rebounds, no points because of our physicality. 7'2", and everybody wanted to know about the size differential. Now you can't say what you're thinking all the time. You just got to answer the questions and not ruffle feathers. Sometimes you want to say, well, you got to play us too now. You guys see JoJo Tugler play? I know he's not projected lottery pick, but that boy from Cy Falls down here, Houston boy, he's pretty good. Javier Francis, another Houston boy, went to Westbury Christian before he went to Mount Vernon. J1 Roberts, Colleen. I got these little Texas boys. That's why I told them people after that, don't sleep on Houston now. We ain't this and we ain't that, but we're pretty good. We had just like them. They had a great game plan. I could tell what they were trying to take away as soon as the game started. And then you start making adjustments here. You make adjustments there. We didn't play great early, but I didn't know if it was as much Duke as it was us. I mean, we're playing in front of 70,000 people with millions and millions and millions. and I thought Duke handled that better than we did early in the game. But we went to halftime down 6. I was elated. We're good. Then we came out and got down 14. And I said, we're playing so bad. And then we changed things up a little bit, started pressing. When JoJo Tugler's on the ball, JoJo's 6'8", exactly. Not 6'7" 3/4 or 6'8" and a half. He's 6'8", but he's got 7'6" and a half wingspan. Now his standing reach is almost 9'6". He can almost touch the rim stand right there. And all of a sudden you put him on the ball, them dudes' eyes get this big. You got Malik Wilson, Emmanuel, LJ, J1, Preston. We gave him the long pass, but you can't throw it over JoJo. If you do, you got to throw it this way. You ain't throwing it that way. That ball got to go up to come down. We got a 5-second call. We got a couple of deflections. And then they didn't score They scored one basket the last 10 minutes, and that was our defense. What won that game was our culture. The things that we value the most is our defense, our rebounding, and our toughness. And the last story I'll tell you about that game is when we lost to Duke last year in Dallas. Jamal sprained his ankle, didn't play the last, I think he played 12 minutes in that game. Maybe it was 10. But the second half, J1 Roberts went 2 for 7 from the free throw line. Javier Francis went 3 for 8. So when we got back in June, I put in this rule that I had 7 guys that I thought were below average free throw shooters. They had to make 150 free throws every night we didn't play a game. And we added it up, and it came to 297 days. 297 days, they made 150 free throws. Nobody was in the gym, manager, one of our interns, grad assistant, whoever, but they made 150 every day. So at the end of the Duke game, we were down. We fouled the Proctor kid. He goes to the free throw line and misses a 1-and-1. On the rebound, J1 gets it. Cooper flag comes over his back, and they called the foul. So now J1's going to the free throw line. We're down 1. Now you think about all the moments that he was shooting those 150 free throws. Nobody was watching. So you prepare for the moments when everybody's watching and those moments when nobody's watching. He stepped to that line, made them both. All of a sudden, a game that looked like we couldn't win or wasn't going to win, we're up 1. They called timeout, go down. Our biggest decision was how we were going to guard Cooper, what we were going to do, and put J1 on him. And we kept JoJo at home because if he missed it, I didn't want anybody to get an offensive rebound. So we let J1 play him one-on-one. And I just told him, stay vertical on your contest. Don't try to block it. If he makes it, he makes it. But don't foul him. He missed that shot, got the rebound, threw it to LJ. LJ makes both free throws. We win 70-67. We stayed true to who we are. We averaged eight turnovers a game. If I let those guys play their game, they'd average 20 turnovers a game. They learn how to play winning basketball. You can't play winning basketball dribbling 37 times and shooting it. Pass the ball. So our kids, they're great kids. They know how to win, and they play for each other. That's a big deal.
Man, Coach, I have an interesting question. Everybody has a legacy. Everybody has something that they want to be remembered for. I just want to ask you, coaching basketball, Kelvin Sampson, what do you want your legacy to be?
One of the I had 3 guys that I really looked up to when I was a young coach because they looked like I did. John Thompson, Nolan Richardson, and George Ratlin. I can't tell you how much those 3 guys' mentorship meant for me. So Nolan Richardson, he's from University of Arkansas, Northwest Arkansas. So he have a golf tournament every summer and invite coaches and raise a ton of money for the charities in Northwest Arkansas. But and we'd have a big banquet and people would come far and wide in that Arkansas area and bid on the coaches. It would be Tubby Smith, Roy Williams, Bill Self, all the coaches you could name. But before we would eat dinner, Nolan always got up and prayed. A lot of guys will ask a minister to pray, but Nolan always prayed. And I think I did that 6 years. I was coaching at University of Oklahoma at the time. And the one thing he always said was, when we get to heaven, um, God's not going to look at any of your personal accomplishments. He doesn't care how many championships you won. He doesn't care how many trophies you got or how many get your team. Nothing. He wants to know the thing that's going to matter most to him is how many people did you help? The impact you had on other people's lives. Like I really appreciate what you said earlier, Dot. That means more to me than anything in basketball. People always make a big deal of, I've never won a national championship, or when you go, I never think about that. I think about CNAC and Kingston, Isaiah Bryce, Khalifa, kid that transferred. Because I got to find a way to help those kids. And then when the season starts and you start rolling and you see them out there on the court doing the things that we've taught, and then they have success and they go on. They get married, they have a family, they stay in touch. It's those relationships that you build through coaching, and the impact you had on their lives. That's far more important to me. So when I walk away and people think of me and whatever my legacy, the haters are going to say whatever they want, but the people that care, they'll know the people that you've helped along the way and trying to pay back. John Thompson gave me so much advice about contracts. George Raveling opened doors for me with USA Basketball. Nolan Richardson, just talking basketball and real estate investments, everything. Those guys talk to me about everything. And I've used so much of theirs. And so I feel an obligation with the younger coaches to give back to them. So giving back, this game's been so good to all of us. I have such an appreciation for coaching at the University of Houston. This is my school. This is my neighborhood. This is my city. It's not my city, but it's my city. I represent the University of Houston. I don't represent me. I represent U of H and the city of Houston. That's far more important to me than anything else.
Man, that's amazing, Coach, man. Congratulations again on a great legacy. There's not much more you can do other than cap it off with the cherry on top championship.
We're going to try.
We got to. But, Coach, I want to switch gears one last time with you. The city's buzzing right now. I've been hearing a myriad of different things about this Kevin Durant trade. I've seen the Vegas odds. We got the second best odds to win the championship next year.
Who's got the best odds?
OKC. Yeah. Rightfully so. Sure. But for us to be second, to me, is like, man, that's crazy.
Yeah.
But once you start looking around the landscape of the Eastern Conference, a lot of teams injured. Second best player going to be out all next season. So it's kind of not that far-fetched. But, Coach, what's your thoughts on the Kevin Durant trade coming to the Rockets, what we gave up, and kind of what's your potential outlook from your standpoint? Obviously, you know more ball than all of us. Yeah. So how would you look at that, and what do you kind of expect to see from next year's Houston Rockets?
Well, I always had a triangle. Who's your best player, then who's your next two players that form the foundation of your team? I always talked about the triangle back, and then all of a sudden it became the big three. But that's right. You have to have who's your big three. And for the Rockets next year, they got a really good big three. Kevin, Sengun, and Amen Thompson. That's a good start. Then they got the satellite guys around them. Van Vliet, Jabari Smith. I think this Reed Shepherd kid's going to open eyes. He's going to be good. It's like when the Astros got Jeremy Pena. He's not going to be good his first year. He's got a career to be good. Everybody thinks you're going to be good. Rookies are freshmen. It takes them a while. Look at Jeremy Pena now. I think Reed Shepherd's going to be a lot like him. They got good pieces. But they don't need Kevin Durant to be great October through March. They need him to be great April through June.
Game 7 versus the Warriors.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Kevin's smart. Mm-hmm. Kevin's not just smart. He's intelligent. A lot of guys got basketball IQ, but Kevin's smart, and it helps to have a coach like Ma. People forget Ma played in the NBA. He didn't come off the street. He knows how to handle a star, and he worked under to me the greatest NBA coach ever, in Greg Popovich. So I applaud Raphael Stone and Patrick Fertitta, Tillman, for doing what they needed to do. I think they had their ceiling was here with the other group. Nothing against those guys, but they weren't going to win with that group, not the championship. What Kevin's done is there's hope. They can win it with that group. Kevin might be 37, but look at him. His body type, Kevin can play 3 or 4 more years with that body type.
And the style of play, it's not like he's athleticism or right. He's catching and shooting.
And I like their length. You got Sengun. What is he? 6'11", 7 foot. Jabari Smith, 6'10", 6'11".
Eason.
And KD 6'10". Look at that front line. Here come Tyree Eason, dog. Amen Thompson. Here come Bargy, best player.
Yeah.
I mean, I love the trade. Yeah. I think it gives them a chance and it wakes up the fans. That play's going to be packed next year. KD may not play every game, but the fact that he's on this team is going to raise everybody. He's going to raise the city up.
That's interesting because I was saying that before they got KD, before this summer, I was saying this towards the end of the year. I was saying that Houston is a big city. We got a lot of stuff going on here. We got U of H, we got the Astros, you got the Dynamo, you got TSU, you got Rice, you got HCU. And I'm just like, I've never been to a Houston game myself, but I always watch them on TV. And it looks like it's just entertainment. It's not like the fans are invested. Right. You don't see everybody walking around with Rockets jerseys on. Right. But now you're going to see a number 35, Kevin Durant jersey in every arena. Houston games, Astros games, you're going to see Kevin Durant jersey everywhere in Houston. So I think that move was great. Like you said, Tillman, that was a great move. And from my understanding that I think the Rockets taking it serious now. Before then, James Harden era, you was their coach. You spend a little time around there. James Harden was the next best thing to get close to a championship. So now that we brought KD in, I'm saying we now, as far as Rockets. Rockets stand for see how quick better we, right? Yeah, I'm going we. I'm in Houston. Yeah. I'm going we now. So I think Kevin Durant takes it to another level. Like you said, the odds of being making the championship, taking it serious. Shout out to the Rockets, man. I'm looking forward to that season.
I'm going to put my GM cap on, man. Y'all tell me what y'all think about this. I still think we one move away. And yesterday, Drew Holiday got shipped to Portland, which I don't think he's going to stay there.
Yeah.
I think he needs to be on a championship contender. I think that's the last kind of infinity stone for the Rockets. He played with that coach in Boston. I think he played with Udoka in Boston, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe not. But I think that's the last serious move right here from your GM, local GM.
That's a good thought. Yeah.
Rockets,
he's a winner too.
Go grab Drew Holiday. I'm sure he don't want to stay in Portland and finish his career like that, right? So I think that's the last piece. Go get Drew Holiday.
I like that.
Let's really assemble, get the team together, take it serious. Like my boy Dot said, we 31.
Yeah.
I think they won a chip when we was 2.
In 94, brother.
Right? So it's time.
These kids make me feel old, that's for sure.
No. For sure. But yeah, man, Coach, we know you got a lot of stuff going on, man. I think CJ got
one last one. How's the golf game? We broke some bread. We got to know these guys. We got some work to do on their swings for sure. But how's the game? Where you been playing?
Yeah.
You don't have to disclose that if you don't want, obviously. But
I do play when I can. I played the least amount of golf this year than ever. A lot of it's because of obligations that I haven't had. I have now with media and stuff. But when I was at Oklahoma, I carried a 7 handicap. I would say if I had a handicap right now, I'd say it's 10 or 11.
All right. Coach can play.
Yeah,
Coach can play.
When I first started playing golf, I was 24. Matter of fact, I'd never seen a golf course before because where I was raised and the time that I was raised in. But the first time I played golf, I played baseball too in high school and college. I gripped the club like a baseball bat because I never had a lesson. So I learned watching how these other guys I was playing with, and I'd ask somebody, I said, how do you grip that? And he was showing me, and then I could hit it a long way, but it always goes sideways.
Yeah.
You know, I was worried about hurting somebody on the other fairway because I couldn't hit it straight.
Yeah.
But once you start playing, it's like these guys. They're great athletes. They've had great success, and they're competitive.
Yeah.
You want to get good at it.
Yeah.
So
It's
I just
addicting,
wanted to
big
get good
time.
enough not to embarrass myself because I knew I was going to have to play in front of people at some point. So I'm good enough not to embarrass myself.
Yeah, good. Have you played any place memorable or that you loved in all your travels?
Yeah.
Or
I play at Lochinvar here. I play at Brayburn. I got some buddies I play with at Sugar Creek. Now my trainer, I play some awesome courses. My trainer at Oklahoma was a course evaluator for the
Golf Digest or something?
USGA.
Okay.
So he was a course evaluator. So we do things in the summer for Coaches versus Cancer.
Okay.
And wherever the event was held, he'd find the best courses around.
There you go.
So we play Pine Valley.
Yep.
We play East Lake. We
Yep.
play Oakmont. We play the one in Rochester, New York, Oak something. Something Oak.
Oakmont or Oak Hills.
Oak Hill, that's
Yep.
it. Played some awesome
Yeah, that's quite a list.
courses. But when
Yeah.
I was at Oklahoma, I lived on a golf course.
Yeah.
So when I'd come home, I didn't play golf when Kellen and Lauren were growing up because I wanted to be a good father. And I was always gone recruiting at the gym. So when I came home, they had me.
Yeah.
But once they got their driver's license, it was on.
Game time.
Got
Yeah.
their
I guess
driver's
that-
license, they's gone.
Yeah.
They won't see me no more.
Yeah.
That's hitting the road. So that's when I started playing a lot.
All right, good stuff.
No, man, that's Coach. Like I said, man, I'm here as a former player of yours. I appreciate you for putting some time out to join this podcast. Your perspectives. We just started a year ago. Having you on it kind of put a staple on everything that that I've talked about. More of my experiences were more from U of H. We can stop the podcast now, and I'll be fine. We don't have to record no more interviews, and I'll be great. But I want to say, Coach, just personally, from me to you, I want to give you your flowers based on everything that you've done, everything you've helped me with, and all the guys that have played for you, the coaches, mentors, everybody that you have helped. I want to personally give you your flowers verbally in front of everybody to let you know that I appreciate you and everything you're doing and continue to do what you're doing. Because like we said at the beginning, that extension, 4 or 5 more years, so we're going to keep doing it. We're going to keep chucking it, Coach. But, I appreciate you, and I want to give you your flowers now while I can.
Well, it's knowing your path and looking at you now. That's good enough for me. That's my legacy. You're my legacy. That means more to me than, had we scored 3 more points and beat Florida, that wasn't going to change my life. I wish I'd done it for the fans and people that left this school. I wanted to win that game, but whether we won it or lost it, it's where you've been and what you're doing now, and so many like you, giving guys a chance to do something with their lives, and then being a mentor, and then helping them. Because you said how much I've helped you. Well, you've helped me too, Dot. That's the great thing about coaching. It goes both ways, and I'm proud of you, man. I'm proud of you.
Coach, man, appreciate you guys again. You guys been treating me like I'm family. I know U of H didn't recruit me at the start, but
I would.
it seems like I went here, with the level of access and, obviously you even taking time out your day.
Yeah.
So again, from somebody that didn't go to school here, but I feel like I'm a part of the family. Dot's my best friend. So I'm almost fathered in, grandfathered in. So I just want to say thank you from my standpoint, and appreciate you for taking the time and letting us kind of shoot this in your home, right? Like, this is a very intimate setting, and I think this is going to look great on camera. So I appreciate it from me.
Thank you.
I do want to say, maybe this will make Wynn feel a little better, but UH didn't call me either. So
I'm still salty about it.
I get down a little bit, but thank you very much, Coach. This has been awesome.
My pleasure. I appreciate you guys having me on.
Yeah. And personally, this is This is CJ first one, by the way. You know, he's new. We throw him
just
right.
said if I bomb,
we throw him
I
right
said
in
I
the
gotta get
fire.
a
We
second
throw him
child
right in the
for
fire,
mine,
man.
so,
And
but,
Did good.
there you
Thank
go,
you.
man. It's Your Perspective Season 2. We got Kelvin Sampson here. That's the kickoff for the summer, man. Appreciate y'all for watching. If you haven't already, make sure you like, follow, subscribe, turn your notifications on. This is the best one by far. Appreciate you guys for watching. Thank you, Coach.
Your Perspective Podcast in the building. It's your boy ESPN Win. I want to give a big shout out to the sponsor of the podcast, Saratoga Sparkling Water. Get down to your local dealers and pick this up.